Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into the incredible story of how we manage people at work. Seriously, it's a journey that takes us from dusty filing cabinets all the way to the CEO's boardroom, shaping the future of the world's biggest companies. So let's jump right in.
So, here's the big question we're going to tackle today. How on earth did managing people go from being, let's be honest, a pretty basic paperwork job to one of the most critical priorities for any CEO? The answer to that question really uncovers a massive shift in how we think about business itself.
To get to the bottom of it, we're going to take a trip through time, hitting three major eras. We'll kick things off with the age of personnel management, then we'll jump into the world of human resource management, and finally, we'll land right here in the modern day with strategic HRM. Ready? Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, so picture this. We're back in the Industrial Revolution. Factories are popping up everywhere, and for the very first time, companies are dealing with huge, and I mean huge, numbers of workers. This created a totally new need, and boom, the personnel department was born. But what they did back then, well, it would be almost unrecognizable today.
This right here tells you everything you need to know about the mindset at the time. The focus was 100% administrative. We're talking payroll, keeping records, making sure you're not breaking any basic labor laws. It was a totally reactive job. You deal with problems as they came up. But here's the real kicker. Employees were not seen as people with potential. They were seen as a cost. Just another line item on a budget, a labor input for the factory machine.
And if you want a perfect picture of this, just think of one of Harry Ford's early assembly lines. The personnel office in that factory wasn't thinking about employee engagement or career paths. Nope. Their job was to make sure enough bodies showed up for the shift, that nobody got hurt too badly, and most importantly, that everyone got their paycheck on time. It was all about nuts and bolts, not strategy.
But you know, things couldn't stay that way forever. Fast forward to the 1980s, and the business world is a whole different ballgame. You've got intense global competition, new technologies, and companies suddenly realized that just counting heads wasn't going to cut it anymore. They needed to get smarter about their people. And this is where we see a huge shift. I mean, look at the change in language alone. People aren't just costs anymore. Now they're human resources. And this wasn't just a fancy new name. It meant bringing in actual structured systems for things like training, employee development, and performance reviews. The whole function started to become more professional, and people started asking, hey, how can we motivate our employees to get better results? You had these trailblazing companies like IBM and P&G leading the charge. They got it. They understood that pouring money into developing their people through serious leadership training and real performance management gave them a massive competitive advantage. Productivity went up for sure, but HR was still mostly taking orders, executing the plans that other departments came up with. That final leap into strategy, that was still to come. And that brings us to today. This is the modern era, which really started gaining steam in the 1990s. The world got even more competitive, more global, more driven by tech, and all that pressure forced one final massive evolution. HR had to become a real, true strategic partner.
This is where it all clicks into place. In strategic HRM, the HR department isn't just supporting the business plan, they're in the room helping write the plan. Your head of HR is sitting at the table with the CEO and CFO making critical, top-level decisions. And the focus, it's on the big stuff, talent, leadership, and culture. Because businesses finally realized that their people, well, they are the ultimate competitive advantage.
I mean, just look at the giants of today. Think about Google's whole strategy for attracting and keeping the smartest engineers on the planet. Or Amazon's obsession with its leadership principles, which drives everything they do. Or Tesla's relentless push for innovation. These aren't just vague business goals. They are deeply ingrained HR strategies built from the ground up to help these companies win. Okay, so we've seen what happened, we've walked through the journey, but the really interesting part is why it happened. What were the massive forces that pushed this function from being a back office clerk to a C-suite strategist? Well, there are 5 big ones we need to talk about. First up, globalization. Suddenly, companies weren't just competing in their own backyard, they were competing on a world stage. And that meant they needed to find, hire, and manage talented people all over the globe, across totally different cultures. That's not an administrative task, that's a huge strategic puzzle. Driver number 2, and it's a big one, technology. You know, automation and digital tools didn't just change how we work, they completely changed the skills you needed to have. All of a sudden, companies had to figure out, how do we retrain our entire workforce for the future? That required a proactive strategy, not a reactive checklist.
The third driver was just brutal competition. Think about it. In today's market, your competitors can copy your product, they can copy your pricing, they can even copy your marketing. But what's the one thing they can never, ever truly copy? Your people. The unique culture and talent you've built becomes your most powerful, long-lasting weapon. Fourth, the people actually doing the work started to change. Workforces became way more diverse in age, gender, background, you name it. And at the same time, what people wanted from a job changed. It wasn't just about a paycheck anymore. To attract and keep the best people in this new world, companies needed a much smarter, more strategic approach to HR.
And finally, maybe the biggest driver of them all, the shift to a knowledge economy. For decades, value was created by making things efficiently. But now, value comes from ideas, from creativity, from innovation. And where does all of that come from? It comes from people, which overnight made managing your talent the most important job in the entire organization.
All right, so we have covered a ton of ground here. Let's pull this all together and boil it down into one simple, clear takeaway, so you can see the whole journey in a single snapshot.
This table just lays it all out perfectly. You can literally watch the story unfold as you go from left to right. Look at the focus. It goes from simple administration to people management to full-on strategic alignment. The role of HR evolves from being clerical and reactive to being a proactive strategic partner. And the view of employees, this is the big one. It makes that incredible leap from a cost to a resource to a strategic asset. It's the whole story right there.
At the end of the day, if you take just one thing away from all of this, let it be this. The entire 100-year evolution of human resources boils down to one profound change in thinking. Your people are not an expense to be minimized. They are the engine of your success, the source of your best ideas, and your single greatest strategic asset, period.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating cliffhanger, doesn't it? We've seen the journey from the clerk to the strategist. But now, with AI set to automate and change jobs all over again, what's the next era going to look like? What's stage 4 in this incredible evolution?
Thanks so much for exploring this journey with us. Hey, if you got something useful out of this explainer, we'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And make sure to subscribe to Apex Academy for more deep dives into the ideas that are shaping our world. We'll see you in the next one.